That's the purpose we have here, to talk about the things that are affecting us here in the borderlands. So it should be up there shortly, if not immediately. And there's a lot going on today, even more implications, fallout, and local impacts that we're going to be talking about today, among other things. The border security implications, immigration issues, all of that in sharp focus nationally, as well as the local impacts we are seeing. So, yeah, it's a lot still going on there as we're talking both about what is happening today as the second bus of the, Greg Abbott efforts about, trying to display border security more at the national level and the implications that we are seeing from them happening, a little bit more constantly than has been previously, but also we are still seeing those issues with supply chain, the transit of trucks as such, happening in our region. So interview today actually going to be focused on that from, one of the nearby relief valves, sort of. Santa Teresa, of course, just across in New Mexico, is nearby enough, but not nearly the scale that we see from all of the combined bridges and ports of entry in this area. So delve into that, what's happening there and what that might mean from that perspective of the Border Industrial Association and the focus that has been out there and what that might mean for progress of a bunch of different kind of situations we have been discussing, including but not limited to the nearshoring or reshoring efforts we've been seeing in the region, as well as just a whole lot more. So we'll delve into that as well. Plus, we still, of course, have those fires continuing in the region and the McBride fire, now fatalities being associated with it up in the, again, Lincoln County and specifically Ruidoso area. So still tracking that, of course, as well as even more going on with property tax valuations. We mentioned it a little bit yesterday, but more reporting coming out now about exactly the kind of scope we're looking at and what this means year over year for, your pocketbook. So some people tuning in, chiming in here over already. Pocketman is dropping that like, wishing us a good afternoon to you as well. Michael Robert Tipton dropping that react over there. Do appreciate it. And a lot of people, again, if you want to get in with us at any point during the show, that's one of the better ways to do so because, simply put, you can leave your comments throughout the program here. We had at least one eager beaver a little bit earlier today calling us saying, oh, wait, the show's not on yet. So I know that there's some demand out there. Two things I want to mention along that way. A, we're going to be opening up that phone line a little bit later. B, we are going to be, of course, having more, response available to you for that talkback system that we also have going on the iHeartRadio app. So if you haven't downloaded the iHeartRadio app, it's one of the better ways to make sure no matter where, if you're near your radio or not, you can still tune into all of our programming because it's not even just for this station. It's for all of the iHeartRadio stations. So you can find it, listen to all of our broadcasts going on there. And very specifically, once you're tuned into the show or even just on 690 in general, there's a little microphone button on there, a little red microphone button that'll show up on your screen. That's the talkback feature. And you can leave us a message there, pretty much whenever you want to. It'll be tagged on when you leave it. So if it's for a specific show, that also kind of works that way. But again, if you want to leave us a message day or night, we still have pound 250, of course, but this is the way that you can do it if you so choose. So more people chiming in here. John Brazelton saying that at least one busload from each red state should arrive in Washington, D.C. each week. Texas shouldn't have to do everything on the border themselves here. And John B. Hogan, very much a phrase I'm going to agree with here. Let's hope the winds die down in Ruidoso. Yeah, those winds that we were experiencing earlier this week, still very much the issue up there in Ruidoso because, this fire literally broke out this week. As of, I think, Tuesday evening, if not a little bit like a early Wednesday morning kind of technical thing. And the way it has spread because of those winds is just, intense and causing most of the issues that we are talking about here with all of the issues. And again, the two fatalities that are now being credited to the fire, or blamed, I guess would be the more correct phrase to use with this fire here. So as we have some callers that have called in from that area, hope everyone is staying safe, staying wary of these issues, and hopefully will be, it's 0% contained. Last I saw here, maybe hovering around the single digits at certain points, but still serious issues coming along with this, and more than 5,000 acres burned so far in that fire. So, there's still, again, from our news partners over at KFOX 14, among other things, listing the supplies that are being requested by the agencies and organizations involved in that area here. Still haven't seen much call for, cash donations yet because they just need stuff, particularly in the, evacuation centers that have been set up here. So John B. Hogan saying over 6,000 acres burned. So, yeah, it's increasing greatly here. So, yeah, and that's one of the major things going on in this region now is actually going to be going up to, well, not that area further in New Mexico. We'll see how those plans work out for me this weekend, just on the personal note of it here. But I mean, the hearts, of course, go out to anyone that is involved in seeing their life and potential livelihood go up along with this here. Horrible thing to see, but a little bit closer to the borderland here. I mean, I think it is in our broadcast area over there, but a little closer to the Texas side of things. Of course, a lot of these efforts related to the state level border security and awareness efforts. Essentially, it's one of the ways you could call it, not really being called that, but I can't think of a much better way to describe, well, there's the other phrase that's been used, political theater, when it comes to those busing efforts specifically that have been coming out of, well, essentially Governor Greg Abbott's and the governor's mansion here, talking about trying to bring, I mean, it can only be thought of as bringing greater attention to it, at least in my mind, that busing of voluntary migrants who have been otherwise charged at the crossing of the U.S. border, but have been in Texas and are now being, well, sent to Washington, D.C. Some of the reporting going on there pointing out that there's actually a lot of gratitude on the part of at least some that are being bussed because it gets them closer to the eventual destination. Again, that's kind of a similar, if not exactly branded effort that has essentially been going on in the borderland region for comfortable saying decades, if not an exact kind of time frame on it, because that has been pretty much the way the immigration patterns have gone. I mean, even before the recent and more recent waves we've seen, I mean, even going back to 2014, which didn't really affect us here, but we were getting some of the overflow. Essentially, the way local nonprofits had essentially been dealing with it was to get them, once they were processed through authorities, going to essentially centers, transit centers, for lack of a better term, to then usually, for the most part, the vast majority that I'm aware of, getting a ticket out of the area to go to where they have creator support, either family or something waiting for them kind of thing here. So again, this could be seen in a similar vein with that effort, but of course the idea and intention behind it seeming very, very different here. Fully agreed here, but whether or not it'll have an impact, again, second busload coming here. Interesting, again, what John Brazelton was saying there. We got a couple Johns in the comments over here, so I got to be specific. John Brazelton saying that more states should look at doing this. That might heighten the impact here. Again, if they do it in the same kind of vein, the legalities on the way it is finally coming down, seeming to more or less evaporated, even if it is detractors of this plan still calling it a, well, political stunt, to which I say, and sure, it's a stunt meant to bring greater, political focus on this. So are you saying that we shouldn't be paying attention to this? Because that's, I'm definitely going to disagree with you on. And John B. Hogan saying, go, Greg, go, over in the comments here. So, I mean, that continuing here. But really what we're seeing from some of these state-level border security efforts, definitely coming from the trade and transit in our area, the miles of trucks that are backing up. You may have seen the pictures going around of them stretching quite long stretches of the border here. So want to get some perspective of, because a lot of focus has been doing on, okay, what other ports of entry outside the state might be being. And of course, we've got one right in our broadcast area here, Santa Teresa, which has its own sizable area and, well, coverage and logistics possibilities there. But what's really going on when it comes to, well, essentially the overflow that may be happening, and what is that going to mean going forward? So we'll be talking about that here today. So we already do for that first break of the hour here right now. Coming out of the break, we'll talk more about this issues and again get into our interview for the day here and take some more of the comments if you want to leave them over on the social media. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch are the best places to go about doing that because, well, we take those comments throughout the program here. And of course, the whole Skeptic Squad thing and the queuing up of comments and the Thunderdome of comments happens there daily. But again, we got to take that first break of the hour right now. Coming back, we'll get into more of this and all of this and talk about the things that affect us here in the borderlands. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments, the Johns talking, John B. Hogan, John Browson, Flocka Jimenez, and more tuning and chiming in. Welcome to do so, but back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Even if you're worried about how you may be able to make your way around the world, as I hope to do, but we'll see how those plans work out. Something that I am not at all unsure about is how I'm going to be able to get those flavors that I really have found myself liking. And I've had the opportunity to go to places like Italy and further areas in Europe where they just got some, well, different and special stuff going on. Find myself almost nostalgic for it. And I got my local source to, well, deal with that, even if I can't make my own way back to those locations with Enhanced Flavors. Enhanced Flavors, your local source of over 40 quality flavored olive oils, extra virgin olive oils, and balsamic vinegars. Of course, the olive oils imported from some of the best places in the world: Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain, if you're looking for the quality of that kind of item. And of course, their balsamic vinegars straight from the Modena province of Italy, because if it's not from there, you can't call it balsamic vinegar. Some of their varieties, they got this garlic olive oil that I love using because, I mean, you open that bottle and you get hit with it immediately, and it really brings that extra flavor and can really help spice up your life. But you can try it for yourself, because they go out to those farmers markets in the community, specifically the Upper Valley Farmers Market that happens Sundays in the Hobby Lobby parking lot at Donovan and Mesa, the Crossroads area. Just head west of I-10 in that area, and you can try them for yourself, some of the varieties out there. But even if you can't make it out there, you can still get it delivered right to your door by going to enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That crash on I-10 westbound near Osborne. An update: the right shoulder is blocked. Lanes are back open there. I-10 westbound near Osborne. I-10 eastbound at Reynolds, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. An accident reported Copia Street south of Alameda that's slowing traffic on Copia northbound. A crash reported Hercules Avenue at Dyer Street. Take Atlas Avenue or Diana Drive as alternates. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by General Dynamics Information Technology.
Are you ready for an unparalleled work experience where you see your impact every day? GDIT is hiring bilingual English-Spanish customer service representatives to deliver critical support to the government. $500 sign-on bonus available for select positions. Apply now at gdit.com/El Paso jobs.
There's only one dental office in El Paso where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are very affordable. 1995implants.com. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please don't ever pay that much for dental implants. Instead, come to 1995implants.com. Our price includes the implant, abutment, and crown, plus a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans to fit your budget. With help from 1995implants.com, you'll no longer have cracked or missing teeth, and you'll finally be able to say goodbye to loose, old, wobbly, worn-out, uncomfortable dentures. If you're ready for a brand new smile that family and friends will rave about, then come to 1995implants.com, conveniently located right here in El Paso. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
There's something for everyone on Discovery Plus. The streaming home of ghostly freakouts, muscle car spinouts, and 90-day makeouts.
I'm really in love with her.
Start your free trial today for exclusive originals and a huge collection of favorites.
Whoa!
Then dive into nature docs, geek out with the family, and get your grub on.
I could eat this every day.
The streaming home of true crime, paranormal, food, home, nature, romance, plus so much more. Discovery Plus. Start your free trial. Terms apply.
It's dangerously easy to steal your identity during tax season because so much sensitive info is all together.
Before we start the annual meeting of Sean's personal info, has anyone seen Social Security number?
Not me.
Nope.
Nuh-uh.
Oh, no. He's been stolen.
LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. If you become a victim, we'll work to fix it. No one can monitor all transactions, but you can save up to 25% off your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, actually, if you really want to get down to it, because that's part of our focus here. Of course, we got the social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Find us under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on most of those platforms here. We go have the pound 250 system if you want to leave us a message. Probably get to that in the next program here. Same with that talkback feature. I'm going to be talking about that a lot because it's brand new and could hopefully make it a lot easier for it, because I know that particularly as we get to the end of some shows, might be, well, difficult to get on the line here because we got a lot of interest in the things we're talking about here. Fully understand, but just making it easier for you, the way you can leave us a message through that talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. So just make a point of it. If you got the smart device for it, download the iHeartRadio app, find the 690 page, and finding us essentially message us. We got people tuning in from around the region as well. We got John B. Hogan, John Braslin, and Flaco Jimenez, Carol Rank, not expressing displeasure with the current administration, saying impeach Biden specifically. See what happens, well, out of the midterms, a little bit extra imports, depending on how you consider it. Well, either way you slice it, either side of the aisle, making this midterm election even more important. So keep your eye on November, and don't forget to vote on those primary runoffs that are coming up here in late May specifically. And Tim Boington Sr. tuning in from Odessa. So thanks for tuning in all the way out there. Another reason we like being online and the way we are, because it gets us outside of even just our broadcast area. Though on a good day, you might be able to pick us up over air over there. But hey, let's just keep it simple and make it say, hey, if you're on the internet, you can probably find us as long as you got a good connection here. So we were talking a little bit before the break about some of these state-level border security and immigration efforts that have been controversial, arguably, in, well, the only way you slice it, in their own right here, both with the, well, way they've been implemented and, of course, the response that has come along with them. I mean, we've seen, again, with the border busing that has been going on, that second busload coming up here. Some questions about, is it going to have much of an impact at the moment here? So we'll see. I expect that one to continue on. But the real questions, particularly for our area and most border communities to the, well, south and east of us, about the enhanced security screenings being done by Texas State Troopers, Department of Public Safety, DPS, along for the commercial traffic here. So there have been some federal efforts along that lines, as CBP extending operation hours for cargo lanes in our area as of this week, actually, because of the long lines we've been seeing in our own area. And of course, some deals being made. The one talking about Nuevo Leon and the governor there making the bilateral deal with the Abbott administration here to do their own screening down there, that being touted as somewhat of a victory. But in the meantime, for the rest of the border, because that's like 9 miles that is included of Nuevo Leon versus the rest of it. I mean, even the state of Chihuahua, significant amount of territory to be covered there when it comes to the Mexican state versus, of course, the state of Texas. So that leaves some questions for our local area of what's going on and how is it going to be resolved here. So, I mean, one of the people that we have talked about previously, particularly when we're looking at just outside of the state area, Santa Teresa comes to mind as being seen as the, well, pressure relief valve in this case, but even then getting more than a little bit overwhelmed here. And what are the impacts going to be? Could we see things being pushed even further out of that area, of our area, and what that might mean for, well, some of these economic development, trade, and increase efforts that we've been talking about here. So I was able to sit down with a president of the Border Industrial Association, Jerry Pacheco, a little bit earlier today to talk about this and, well, those further implications here. So here's that interview with him. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Jerry Pacheco, president of the Border Industrial Association. Thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So we have talked previously about some of the interesting trade, transit, and, well, economic development possibilities of the region here. People may be most familiar with you involving the Santa Teresa area and some of the transit stuff out there. But of course, we've had some very interesting developments in recent weeks here, namely that of what is going on with essentially enhanced security checks. Essentially what Texas Governor Greg Abbott has ordered, that 100% of truck traffic, 18-wheelers, tractor-trailer traffic, be inspected additionally by DPS upon entry into the state of Texas. So this is in addition to any other screenings, and this seems to be largely being done essentially by hand, or at least involving quite a lot of personnel doing very manual checks of it, is all we're seeing here. And so as a result, in the El Paso area and all along the Texas border, we are seeing miles long lines develop daily of, and even stay there daily, of truck traffic being held up. And we're seeing a lot of impacts from that, and a couple of protests at least along different ports of the border, ports of entry along the border here. The Reynosa port of entry down there in further South Texas being one of the main ones, but even some have cropped up in our area. So y'all have an interesting perspective on this, because being in the Santa Teresa area, you're one of the next biggest ports of entry that is just outside the state of Texas here. So what are some of the impacts that you all are seeing over in that area?
Well, a lot of the traffic that was having difficulty crossing at the Texas port of entries has chosen Santa Teresa as a reliever route, and it's really extended the lines here to cross northbound, and we're just seeing a tremendous amount of traffic. We're probably up to 3 to 5 hours to cross northbound trucks, and El Paso is probably double that. So we're seeing congestion at the ports of entry of products and components that would or should have been delivered much more quickly, and everybody's just scrambling to try to get their cargo to the final destination.
Some of the stories that we're hearing coming out of this are about trucks idling for better parts of the day, if not multiple days. And the real concern in the short term, anyway, being that of very perishable goods, produce specifically being concerned about, because even in the refrigeration trucks that then run on their own diesel reserve, in some cases, stories of that running out. And so trucks literally sitting there running out of gas, not able to move, and then orders also being canceled. Are you, from the perspective as you're looking at this, seeing any short-term impacts that you're worried might be further extended from just this backlog that we're seeing in our area?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you used a good example. Produce. We've got 3 produce importers here in Santa Teresa, and all of that's perishable, and you can't have that stuff sitting out there as we kind of the weather gets warmer. But if you order, let's say, a Dell computer, an HP tablet, they're coming out of, let's say, Foxconn in San Jeronimo, which is on the other side of the border from Santa Teresa. And Foxconn and Dell builds the Dell computers, and Dell guarantees you as to when that computer will be delivered to your doorstep. That's probably going to be shot out of the water now. So there's so many products. It's very frustrating because we already had challenges in the supply chain. And this crisis is of our own doing. It's not something that's occurring in Asia. It's not something that's occurring in Europe or because of the war. It's because Governor Abbott is insisting on secondary inspections when most everybody you talk to says they're highly unnecessary. The CBP, Customs and Border Protection, does a really good job of inspecting cargo and for anything like contraband or for people. And a secondary inspection is wholly unnecessary.
So when it comes to just the sheer volume here, you were telling me a little bit before we started recording here that the wait was down overnight here to about 45 minutes, and now it's already up to a couple of hours, if not more, just within the Santa Teresa area.
Yeah, and the fastest crossing times for northbound shipments. We average less than 30 minutes during normal times. And but now it's like even 3 to 5 hours. That's still a pretty quick crossing time compared to what's happening. Let's say at the Isleta Bridge in Far East El Paso. So my hat is off to the Customs and Border Protection people. They are just straining here at the port of entry to move cargo as fast as they can.
If you're just joining us, guest right now is Jerry Pacheco, president of the Border Industrial Association. Want to find out anything more about them or the work they do, you can find them at nmbia.org. That's nmbia.org. So some of the conversation that is coming out of this, some of what has been being discussed statewide, both by even members of the governor's own party, as well as, of course, political opponents, have been talking about this being a boon for other areas of border crossings. Nogales keeps being brought up very much here. Do you have expectations that should this continue on for any length of time, that more traffic flows will continue to shift to either Santa Teresa or points even then further west?
Well, yes, that's what would be expected. I mean, that's already happening in Santa Teresa. I don't know what's happening in Columbus, which is about 60 miles west of Santa Teresa, but I imagine their volumes have gone up also. But this is untenable. We cannot do this to ourselves and to the trade community. It's as the governor of Tamaulipas wrote to Governor Abbott. He says, it's always a problem when you use a political approach to solve problems, and that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing I think a lot of politics at play in this deal here, and Texas is not really finding very much at all on trucks that they're doing the secondary inspection on.
This all, of course, is mentioning the political implications there coming out of the Biden administration's and specifically the CDC's decision to have the removal of Title 42, the Trump-era immigration policy that was largely focused on removals due to pandemic conditions, that being essentially ended. The current plan here is in late May. And so this is something that Governor Greg Abbott announced in light of that, saying that we need these enhanced things here. So when it comes to those, then again, political implications here, I guess, does this, I mean, so there's been a lot of speculation on what the end game here might be. Does this seem, from your perspective, like it's something where it's essentially a point of pain inflection here to then try to force further change from the administration? Or, I mean, just your perspective, what will be the thinking behind putting this in place?
Well, I think that's exactly it. I mean, this is aimed right at the Biden administration because of the Title 42 going away on May 23rd. But we don't do this to ourselves. It's like taking a pistol and shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, he's not hurting. He's not only hurting Mexican companies, he's hurting U.S. companies. And there's quite a bit of backlash that's going on right now in terms of the illogical actions that are taking place right now.
Speaking specifically about backlash, then we've been hearing a lot about protests again. Reynosa and that crossing down closer to Laredo has been a major focus here. But even in our area, there have been some, it seems, off and on protests at the very least here. Are you hearing anything further about that affecting further crossing times in both directions?
Well, on Tuesday, we had a group of Mexican truckers arrive at the port of entry and block the northbound lane from 11 o'clock to about 5 o'clock, which, our state officials actually went across the border to let them know that we in New Mexico don't have that policy of secondary inspection here. And it's not a question that we're in cahoots with Texas or in line with Governor Abbott's policies. And so they understood that. They were very receptive. And after that conversation, in a couple hours, they withdrew from the port of entry. But that was an attempt by them to either make the whole region feel the pain of what's going on in Texas, or possibly they don't have quite a sense of that New Mexico is a separate state and we have our own policies.
So, yeah, these protests have been popping up, it does seem here. And so there's more to get into here, including on the further impacts here that I definitely would like to delve further into here, because the idea of what this is going to mean both medium and long term, if it were to stay into place, would be significant here. So we're going to take a quick break here. We'll stick around here and get more on this. So stay tuned here for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 Morning News Update. We're following developing news this morning out of East El Paso. Fire officials say a automotive bus shop on Cedar Oak Drive caught fire early this morning. They say the roof did collapse on this building, but the fire has since been put out. Now, crews are still looking for hotspots, and investigators are at the scene trying to determine the cause. This morning, thousands of people in Ruidoso are still without power. The utility company has been working since yesterday on repairs, and so far, they were able to restore power for about 4,000 customers last night. The McBride wildfire has firefighters working day in and day out to contain the flames, which have now spread over 5,000 acres. And just into our newsroom last night, the wildfire has now turned deadly, killing 2 elderly people. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 Morning News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Trans Mountain eastbound at Kenworthy, an injury accident with medical crews responding. I-10 westbound before Mesa at Osborne. That earlier accident has cleared. All lanes are back open. Hercules at Dyer, an injury accident there. And Mesa Street southbound at Sunbowl Drive, a crash there. You could take Stanton as an alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. It's definitely a warmer day today, and happy to say that the winds are not very strong. And this is going to be pretty much our trend as we head into our holiday weekend with increasing temperatures and afternoon breezy conditions. The breeziest day will actually come Friday and Saturday. For Sunday right now, those Easter egg hunts are looking warm, but pretty nice.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage. When you buy a home with Rocket Mortgage, you'll have a team of experts to help you every step of the way. Forget unwanted surprises and unanswered questions. That's not how they work. You'll feel informed and confident at every turn. When you're ready to buy or refinance, Rocket can.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know life's moments are definitely better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to always be ready to make the most of these moments.
Whether in studio, on the red carpet, or around the house, having the confidence to get close is amazing.
Our lives are better together with Smart Mouth. Just 2 rinses a day means fresh breath for 24 hours.
Find it at your favorite drug, grocery, or supercenter store, or save 20% at smartmouth.com/radio.
For inspiration to reach your goals, join Ben Nemtin to get on track with 5 steps to make the seemingly impossible possible. Register at expresspros.com/expresstalks. A free virtual event May 5th from Express Employment Professionals. expresspros.com. This report is sponsored by expresspros.com.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of 2 people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Stay informed at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Continuing our interview now again with Jerry Pacheco, president of the Border Industrial Association, and essentially, this is an endearing term I'm going to use here, a cheerleader for the San Teresa area in general, which has seen a lot of growth and a lot of focus from its own state on it there. But again, the focus we're doing right now on, well, the overflow that has been happening from some of the, well, it's all Texas ports of entry, except for that one near Nuevo Leon. But otherwise, a lot of problems being seen in border trade and transit. A lot of comments coming in on this as well. Some questions coming in for our guest here that we'll have to follow up with and all, because we spoke with him a little bit earlier today about this, about how moving from one port of entry to the other may be an issue here, or if there's possible to prioritize those most perishable things here. But we'll get into more of those comments here in just a bit, because there's a lot more of those potential impacts to get to here. So here again, speaking with Jerry Pacheco on, again, those impacts and what we're seeing right within the borderland region. Joining us again here is Jerry Pacheco, president of the Border Industrial Association. Thank you very much for sticking around with us.
Sure, thank you.
Absolutely, because a lot to discuss here when it comes to some study of the immediate impacts and beyond that we are seeing in our area from the Texas Governor Greg Abbott's recent order for secondary inspections being done on nearly 100% of truck traffic, 18-wheeler tractor-trailer traffic crossing into Texas based on, well, essentially concerns of smuggling is what he has articulated in light of the pending removal of Title 42. That slated for, again, late May. So, but these orders, of course, in place now. And I say almost 100% because there has been one port of entry, the one that is, well, essentially across from the 9-mile span of the Texas-Mexico border that is covered by the state of Nuevo Leon. And that is something that Governor Greg Abbott brought up, announced yesterday and sent out a release, actually pretty much during our program yesterday, announcing that change here. Is this seemingly going to be? I mean, you mentioned one of the other governors reaching out to the Abbott administration, saying what's going on, what is this happening, why is this happening, and is this going to actually do anything productive, essentially? And I mean, is this a possibility of what is looking at? Would that even be tenable? This idea of having multiple, essentially bilateral agreements between in the states of different countries to deal with this, or is that even worth discussing at this point?
Well, I guess that's possible. I mean, between, let's say, Chihuahua and Texas, they share a long border. With us, it's like we're a completely different state. We don't have anything to do with what Texas is doing. We just feel the effects on this. So I guess that's possible with the northern Mexico states that border Texas. But again, it's kind of illogical that this is occurring in the first place.
So speaking further about those impacts here, I mean, again, y'all are seeing a lot more truck traffic than you have previously. Wait times have gone up. This does kind of remind me in the opposite direction of what happened half a decade ago, a little bit more actually, when there was significant changes to, again, not quite the same thing, but car importation policies into Mexico, in which out there in the Santa Teresa area, went out there a few times to see the miles of cars being imported into Mexico after there was a change essentially in aduana there on the Mexican side of here, though again this going in the opposite direction this time. So there's not exactly been strangers in this area to changes in policies causing serious backlogs, though the scope of this one again certainly differs.
Oh my goodness, this is yeah. I mean, the used car importation issue into Mexico was not as big an issue as this is being, because we're talking about products and components. More than $1 billion a day crosses the U.S.-Mexico border. I mean, it just phenomenal amount of trade going on right now. And when you have policymakers that don't fully consider the policies they're implementing on their own companies and their own state, you end up with a mess like this.
So let's talk a little bit about what the impacts we are seeing there, again, besides the times that are being exhibited in your area and along the other parts of the border here, particularly in the borderland region. If this were to continue on for any length of time here in the short term, weeks to a month or two here, what kind of expectations would you have of what that means kind of across the board, both for, wait times, but also, that's that number that you just mentioned here, the value of goods, the ability of goods to move, and what that'll mean then for the businesses, services, people that rely on them?
Well, I'll give you an example that's related to Santa Teresa. In 2021, our exports to the world were up 46%. Mexico was up 13%. Most of New Mexico's exports, about half of them, a little more than half, are generated in the Santa Teresa industrial base, to give you an idea. A blip like this does affect us. It really impedes the flow of commerce that we're shipping to Mexico and using the port to bring out. It's just, it's not a good scene over here. I mean, NMSU estimated in a study they did last year that the Santa Teresa industrial base contributes about $1.1 billion to the region and the two states of Texas and New Mexico. Things like this have a negative effect on us to grow that number and keep growing our industrial base here.
So if this were to then continue, I mean, yeah, talking about those numbers and what we're looking at here, I mean, Santa Teresa is kind of acting a little bit more than intended as a kind of a pressure relief valve for this region. But if this were to continue at any kind of rate, again, even just short term for more weeks here, what would be your expectation on what that will have for really exports from Mexico in general, the cross-border trade, and then the economic impact we'd be seeing regionally from that?
We would see longer waiting times, longer times to the final consumer, higher prices to the final consumer, which this exacerbates the inflation that we're experiencing right now, because trucks are sitting in line there, are idling for 5-10 hours, and they need diesel to run, and they're not getting to their destination. And when a truck's not rolling, the trucking company's not making any money. And so this has the effect of affecting our regional economy and the revenues that come into it in the short term. Hopefully this is a short-term issue and we don't see the effects of this in the medium term, but it's not what we want right now with inflation and all of the already existing disruptions in the supply chain.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Jerry Pacheco, president of the Border Industrial Association. Want to find anything about them and the work they do, nmbia.org is the website to find them on. Again, nmbia.org, the website there. So speaking further about this, about, short-term implications, just frustrations, and dips for individual businesses that may be waiting on, like, heard from grocery stores or other regional suppliers about orders being canceled after, like, produce was spoiled or ruined, that kind of a thing here. And so we're seeing a lot of essentially kind of feels like this could be a nibble to death by ducks thing, in that a ton of small impacts all in aggregate really having a serious impact. But that's just kind of the short-term perspective. If this were to span into the medium or long term without any significant changes, because again, the secondary inspections seem to be largely manual, essentially, personnel inspecting, looking at panels, that kind of a thing, and not using necessarily the same scanning technology that has been set up and in the infrastructure at some of the major ports of entry just within our region, and again being used by federal authorities, as opposed to, again, this being a DPS and state trooper effort. If this were to span on further, just economically speaking, what could that mean?
Well, I'll give you a specific example. When we have long lines at the commercial lanes, usually the port director for Customs and Border Protection pulls personnel off of the passenger vehicle lanes. And all of a sudden, now you have two lanes that are, very lengthy. And people are not going back and forth and spending money. El Paso, the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas estimated that between 15 and 20% of retail sales in El Paso are generated by Mexican shoppers that come and cross that bridge. When you have a mess like this, they're not going to be very apt to come and spend their money here in the United States. You don't want to be waiting in line 5 hours in a car either, with kids and grandma and what have you. So it's just the economic impact hits us everywhere. Everything from getting product, on time to where it's going to go, to truckers losing money, to shoppers not coming over here for any kind of consumables or any kind of entertainment. And so it doesn't just affect the port. And the issue is not localized. This issue is a global issue because we're tied into a global supply chain here that is not being fed components or products or what have you. So a lot of people away from the border would think, oh, that's the problem at the border. No, it's your problem in St. Louis. It's your problem, further to the Midwest in Chicago. If we can't get product across the border and to the final consumer there, everybody's going to be delayed and prices are going to go up.
Furthermore, we've had a lot of discussion about some of the essentially economic positioning and logistical positioning of this region, El Paso, Santa Teresa, all of it that has been getting seen with the nearshoring phenomenon of, as people are reevaluating and companies reevaluating how the global supply chain may be working for the near to medium term, the next 3-5+ years, that there has been that phenomenon of companies looking to relocate and shorten their supply lines. And, northern Mexico, Chihuahua, the state of Chihuahua, Chihuahua City, in the corridor leading up to here has essentially been a draw. We have seen a number of companies, at least a dozen that I'm aware of, and probably more, doing some shifting, if not complete relocating. So if this border security change on Governor Greg Abbott's part continues, what do you think that will mean for essentially that trend we had been seeing to this point?
That really affects our prospects. We have a healthy pipeline of companies we're trying to recruit to the region. In the last 3 years, we recruited 3 companies from Taiwan, and we have a warehouse for a company that relocated its production from China. So we have a really strong effort to try to bring those Asian companies and reshore them or nearshore them, to North America. And when a governor can unilaterally do something like this that affects the entirety of the Texas ports of entry and neighboring ports, i.e. Santa Teresa, it makes those prospects think whether this is a good place to locate. They might want to go to Nogales. They might want to go to Otay Mesa in California. So it's a problem at all levels.
Again, guest right now has been Jerry Pacheco, a president of the Border Industrial Association. Anything more about them, find them on their website, nmbia.org. That's NM as in New Mexico, BIA.org. So, Jerry, thank you very much for talking with us about this, some of the impacts immediately and that you might be seeing in the near term from this situation, and what people need to know about it here today.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
And I don't usually like to do this, but as a bit of breaking news right now, actually, in relation to that conversation, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has announced as of this hour that they has come to an arrangement with Chihuahua State Governor Maria Eugenia Campos in order to resolve kind of in the similar way that there was, well, in that other sector of the border with Nuevo Leon, bilateral security arrangements. So that being signed in Austin, literally as of, well, the live stream that they had announcing that ended just a couple of minutes ago here. So we'll see what more we can delve up on that right now. A lot more comments coming in as well. So we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines here. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We got a crash reported Gateway northbound at Montana Avenue, slowing traffic. 375 Trans Mountain at Kenworthy, a crash has blocked the left lane, so you can expect delays there. Montwood at Saul Kleinfeld, a crash with injuries. And an earlier accident, Mesa Street southbound at Sunbowl Drive, is still causing a little bit of delays there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. For inspiration to reach your goals, join Ben Nemtin to get on track with 5 steps to make the seemingly impossible possible. Register at ExpressPros.com/ExpressTalks. A free virtual event May 5th from Express Employment Professionals. ExpressPros.com.
As a marketer, you want to reach everyone, adults, teens, millennials, but it's not like these groups all hang out in the same place, right? Actually wrong. They're all right here, listening to radio commercials just like this one. Radio ads connect with 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? Visit iHeartAdvertising.com and get AM/FM working for you. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Hey, spring is here, and the warmer weather means you've got a lot more going on. Don't let COVID get in the way of any of it. COVID vaccines offer the strongest possible protection now and from long-term effects in the future. Protect yourself and your plans. We can do this. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. That's vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. Less than 1% of water on Earth is drinkable, and humans are using it faster than nature can replenish it. Reduce the amount of water you use in the bathroom by taking shorter showers and turning the water off while you brush your teeth. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the Flex Seal family of products. You know, there's a lot of ways to protect your home. You could dig a moat. You could bubble wrap it. Or you could train a pack of wolves to protect it. But the best way is with the Flex Seal family of products. So when you need to patch, bond, seal, repair, and stop leaks fast, get the Flex Seal family of products. Available at FlexSealProducts.com and fine retailers.
The uh-ohs are out there. Scratches, dents, unexpected natural events. But with Mako and their magic, your car is no longer tragic. So when life throws you uh-ohs, just say, better get Mako, and go to Mako.com to book your appointment today.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Short timing at this segment here. We have gone ahead and opened up those phone lines, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, to get into the comments here. But again, the news coming in out of this hour, the official announcement of a deal between the governor of Chihuahua in Mexico and Texas Governor Greg Abbott in order to, well, resolve, at least in this sector of the border, the border security issues that had been implemented by Abbott recently. The tweet translated here from Mauro Campos, the Chihuahuan governor, saying, "We are in Texas in a meeting with Secretary of State John Scott and James Taylor, presenting security agreements in the state of Chihuahua and finalizing this agreement to resolve the problem with border security prior to meeting with Greg Abbott here." So that happening as of this hour. So we'll essentially going back to random checks as had previously been done here. But let's squeeze in one quick call. I think we got time for. We do have Mario on the west side here right now. Mario, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's very fortunate that they've reached an agreement. I'm one of those that I work for a company that builds electrical panels, circuit breakers. A lot of that goes into construction of new homes, hospitals, and a lot of other construction applications. And yeah, our product was stuck for days, and so this product goes into a lot of the backlog of home construction and things like that. And it's good that Governor Abbott was putting some pressure onto reaching some of these agreements, and but just the economic downfall and all the economic problems that this was causing was not good. But nice that it was all resolved and we're going back into regular operations and normal things. But yeah, it can cause a great deal of pain if this was to be sustained for a longer period of time. I understand the smuggling and all of that. I think as your other host was saying, guest was saying, there's a lot of inspections going on already by CBP, a lot of systems put in place. So the secondary inspections that Governor Abbott had put in place were a little unnecessary, to say the least. But it's good that they've reached an agreement.
Absolutely here. So thank you for that point in the call. I appreciate it. We got to hit that next break right now. So coming out of the break, we'll talk more about this and more of the issues affecting us here in the borderland. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back in a minute.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We got a crash reported Gateway northbound at Montana Avenue, slowing traffic. 375 Trans Mountain at Kenworthy, a crash has blocked the left lane, so you can expect delays there. Montwood at Saw Kleinfeld, a crash with injuries. And an earlier accident, Mesa Street southbound at Sunbowl Drive, is still causing a little bit of delays there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be El Paso's #1 dealer in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in March. As a gesture of our gratitude, we've extended all our Ram Truck Month deals, like 0 down, 0% interest for 72 months and no payments for 90 days.
Buy now and save thousands on a huge inventory of new and certified pre-owned vehicles. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months. All new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating, 0 APR for 72 months, 0 payments for 90 days. We've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms, even if your credit is less than perfect. And we want your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The CIA warns Russia's threat to deploy a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine should not be taken lightly. CNN reports that Director Bill Burns said the CIA is watching that possibility very intently. He stressed that Vladimir Putin may be growing desperate as the war against Ukraine hasn't gone according to plan. The FBI is piecing together Frank James' life leading up to his alleged attack in the New York City subway system. Natalie Migliori reports.
Investigators have discovered James rented a U-Haul and a storage
storage unit from a Philadelphia facility. That was one day before he unleashed smoke canisters and opened fire on innocent N-Train riders in Brooklyn Tuesday morning. An AR-15 automatic rifle and several other firearm-related items were found in that storage unit. Investigators also searched the 62-year-old's Philadelphia apartment on Wednesday, which he had rented for 15 days, and his lease expired the same day as that subway attack. Natalie Migliori, New York.
The White House COVID czar says the U.S. is in a very, very different situation than China when it comes to an uptick in cases. Dr. Ashish Jha said the country has a high-quality set of vaccines and has done a better job of vaccinating older people than China. Shanghai and other Chinese cities are facing another round of lockdowns. Jha said any health restrictions will be done on the local level in the U.S. President Biden is pushing Buy American.
Over time, Buy America has become basically a hollow promise. My administration is making Buy America a reality.
Speaking in North Carolina, Biden promoted homegrown technology and manufacturing and said the economy is continuing a strong recovery after the height of the pandemic. A mortgage is becoming even more expensive. Freddie Mac says the interest rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage has hit 5%. That hasn't happened since February 2011. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Georgia's Attorney General is joining a list of AGs who are demanding the Biden administration not rewrite Title IX. Republican Chris Carr says the Biden administration is threatening to upend historic anti-discrimination regulations to impose its social politics on our students and effectively weaken equal opportunity for women in sports. The reported rewrite would include gender identity. Despite the ongoing defense of their country, Ukraine will be returning to World Cup qualifying this summer.
Ukraine's World Cup qualifying match in Scotland has been rescheduled for June 1st. If it's played, it'll be 14 weeks after Russia first invaded Ukraine, leading to a suspension of soccer and the requirement that all men over the age of 18 stay in the country to fight against Russian forces. The winner of that match plays Wales on June 5th, with the prize being a trip to the World Cup in Qatar and a first-round matchup against the United States in Group B on November 21st. I'm Jack Cronin.
An autonomous vehicle manufacturer is bringing a testing facility to South Carolina. Sarah Bartlett reports.
Argo AI is investing $2.6 million into a new facility at the South Carolina Technology and Aviation Center. The autonomous driving technology company says it's planning for a closed-course track to test its self-driving vehicles. The company is working with Ford, Volkswagen, Walmart, and Lyft to innovate delivery and rideshare services. In a statement, Governor McMaster said the decision for Argo AI's new operation further proves that South Carolina is a top destination for companies in the automotive industry. Operations are expected to begin later this year, and it'll create 40 new jobs in the area.
A glyph found inside the ruins of a Guatemalan pyramid representing a day called Seven Deer marks the first known use of the Mayan calendar. Archaeologists found the pieces at a site in northern Guatemala famed for the buried chamber with ornate murals discovered there more than 20 years ago. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If April is showering your company with open job positions, check out Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job today and get hiring by visiting Indeed.com/credit.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Those are some of the better places to leave your comments throughout the program, as some have been taken advantage of. RJ, John Brazelton, Barbara Carrasco, Carol Rank, Tim Boington, John B. Hogan, Flaco Jimenez, and more. So, again, if you want to do that over there, the conversation often takes on its own tone and tenor, as we'll get to some of those here in just a second. But we also got those phone lines open right now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. That number to dial there. Got a couple calls on the line here that we'll get back with here shortly. Just want to get through some of the comments right now. Some questions for our guest here. Again, thank you to Jerry Pacheco, with the president of the Border Industrial Association, talking about some of the impacts they've been seeing already, even in there, not affected by the state level policies. But of course, we have that, again, I don't like calling it breaking news, but the details coming out as of the start of this show on a deal that has now been signed. You can find a more complete story also over with our news partners at KFOX 14, that Governor Abbott and the governor of Chihuahua reach agreement over bridge inspections, signing that within about the last half hour here, give or take here. So that, yes, Governor of Chihuahua, Maria Eugenia Campos Galvan, saying that they are going to be doing deeper inspections in the state of Chihuahua to then alleviate the need for, additional inspections, as was being required by Governor Greg Abbott in recent weeks by DPS and state troopers. Governor Abbott saying, quote, "We are showing how border governors can achieve results. Border ports have been clogged because of a law that Texas implemented to thoroughly inspect semi-trucks coming across the border here." Going on further to say that since Chihuahua has a detailed plan to secure the border, the Texas Department of Public Safety can return to its previous strategy of random searches effective immediately. So, that being signed here, probably a little bit late in the day for it to take effect here. I guess the real test then in my mind will be what happens as of tomorrow here. So, there are also, I want to note here, further meetings that have been planned with the governors here on Friday, specifically with, some of the other Texas, Mexican states rather, Tamaulipas and with Coahuila on Friday. So maybe some more announcements coming up here, but it's a lot of conversation happening on that in the meantime here. Again, we got more comments on the line coming in. John Brazelton saying that border brokers need to consider border politics when setting up business arrangements. You can't just keep going along dead, dumb, and blind. Correcting it as deflated, but I think you were more on spot there with the first interpretation. RJ saying in reference to a different part of Governor Greg Abbott's recent efforts and orders he has put into place, the busing that has been happening of some of those crossing illegally into the state of Texas straight to D.C., saying D.C. is a political stunt. These secondary inspections could become politically disastrous. I mean, certainly a lot of national attention has been stirred up on this. So let's go ahead and get into those calls right now. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. I enjoyed that interview with Mr. Pacheco. And I agree with him when he said this is an illogical situation and that policymakers don't consider the consequences of their decision-making. This is a perfect example of how President Biden is a catalyst of everything that's happening in Texas. He has, like I said before, the key to reverse everything. If he just listened to the governors, took time to come to our border, actually experienced what's happening at our borders, he may have, I don't know, but I'm hoping he may have had a paradigm shift and done things differently. But what I was calling about is Bloomberg is stating that households are going to be paying a $5,200 I was going to say franchise tax, but an inflation tax this year. And Amazon's adding a 5% fuel surcharge for their packages. That's going to be a lot of money for some households. And finally, the Customs Border Patrol reported that last year in 2021, they 9,000 drones came into our airspace from Mexico. And it's the cartels assessing where the border is overwhelmed and where they can send their drugs and smuggling and everything. They did indicate that they have seized 12 of the drones, a couple dozen drones, and got some valuable information from them. But these drones, some of the drones are actually carrying fentanyl.
Oh, yeah.
And they land and they drop it, and then they take off back to Mexico for another shipment. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I did not realize they were, I couldn't be ignorant enough not to think they weren't using drones, but to actually come and drop fentanyl. I was kind of surprised with that one.
I'm not, and it's only because of a story that I heard from a local shop, hobby shop, actually. Not going to name them because I don't want them getting in trouble, but they had someone, and this was better part of 10 years ago, so this is not a new effort. They had someone come in and ask for a very specific set of requirements, a largish model plane, the kind like, RC control plane, but one that's like not quite quarter size, but approaching it. So still portable by person, but large enough that you have to put it in the back of something to get it around here. And very specifically, they wanted 2 sets of controls for it. So, you just do a little bit of logical deduction here. This could very easily use to fly from one side across to the other, and you just switch over controls from one controller to the other, and it's not even then a drop-off procedure. It's a land, pick up, and then send it back procedure. So, that was quite the investment back in the day, and what we're definitely seeing nowadays is that technology is incredibly cheap now. That device I'm talking about, that setup would have been on the order of thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to have any kind of actual payload capacity. And this was also before the advent of fentanyl, when fentanyl is something that is very concentrated and potent and valuable. So, it still would have been worthwhile for them to have pursued that back in the day, but even now it's just been ramped up to 11.
Well, how do they monitor our airspace if 9,000 drones were able to come in from Mexico? I don't understand how 9,000 could come in last year. How do we monitor our airspace? Do you know? I don't know.
Something that's in place in other sectors of the border, there's the, I think the phrase for it is aerostat that you see once you get closer to Arizona and California, even out that way. But that's kind of the modern technological question. To be taken more broadly here, you look at Ukraine, the advent of drones in that conflict, and even some of the just previous ones have been incredibly difficult. So this is one where it's, the technological application of it may exist here, but it is very much not widespread. And so to really deal with that is going to take its own concentrated effort here. So simple answer, there's not a great solution or even really a plan on the books that I'm aware of from any level.
That's unfortunate, but they better get started on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have some conversations coming up about some of the technological implications of border security. And this is definitely one that we probably need to be talking more about. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point there. There's a lot of implications out of all this stuff that we need to talk further about here. But even as we're dealing with, this current situation and even maybe more about some of this aftermath, among other things coming out about this, El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar had sent a letter to the Biden administration, co-signed by most, if not all, of the Texas Democratic delegation to the legislature, demanding investigation and action on this. So we'll see if that is going to be, satisfied by today's effort. But given that there are more Mexican states to come on board with this, and also, just further implications coming in, we'll see how much more political, fervor is stoked up over this. A lot of it, it's been, just a couple of weeks now, less than really, that this has been in place with that enhanced security being required by Texas DPS for all commercial carriers crossing the border here. So increasing segments of the border now being covered by bilateral agreements between Texas and Mexican states, but a whole lot more questions on exactly what that'll look like. Not much details being noted out of the Nuevo Leon agreement yesterday, and of course the one with Chihuahua today. Still more questions on exactly what that will look like and what that will mean still coming out and more information being very much asked for, but waiting on the Abbott administration and the governor's office to get more of that here. But let's get to that next break right now because we're overdue here already. I know we got more calls on the line, so again, thank you for your point and call. We'll get to more of those after this break here. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That earlier multi-vehicle crash on Trans Mountain eastbound at Kenworthy is still blocking the left lane and slowing traffic there. Injury accident Montwood westbound east of Saul Kleinfeld, just north of Bob Mitchell Drive, and slowing on Mesa Street northbound Wyoming to the I-10, 5-minute delays, and on the 10 eastbound from the Loop to the 54 Patriot, it's a 5-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Gila River Hotels and Casinos.
Your moment has arrived at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Phoenix, Arizona's newest resort. It's time to own your moment, so you do you. For more information, visit playatgila.com.
Have you thought about getting dental implants? Has someone told you that implants cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a tooth? Here's something much better to think about. Affordable dental implants from 1995implants.com. The El Paso dental office where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are as low as $1,995 per tooth. That price includes the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. At 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing. 1995implants.com. You're going to love your new smile, and your friends and family will be telling you how great you look. Best of all, your dental implants are very affordable if you come to 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're speaking another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments, calls, and all such coming in on the subjects we are discussing today. One of the other ones that's kind of on the back burner, I guess, with that news that has come out since our show started about the agreement now being made between governments of Texas and Chihuahua State in Mexico over border security arrangements, that bilateral agreement. But we still got a lot we're talking about here. So if you want to call in during the show, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. So further comments about the efforts here. A little bit earlier, Carol Rank saying that Montana stands with Abbott. Great job. This is all on Biden. Reminder, his words, everyone is welcome to come. Well, I hope the rest of America wakes up and stands up to this border issue. The red wave coming in November. Get out and vote if you want change. Again, a lot of predictions about the midterms elections, thinking about well, what's going to happen there? We'll see what happens. I mean, events like this could crop up in between now and then. So, I mean, some of those opinion polls I found useful, but by no means guaranteed anything at this point. I mean, politics can change very widely, as we've already seen here just within a week here. Michael Pat is pointing out something that has been mentioned here, that inspections have parked over 1,000 unsafe trucks here. That is an interesting point. I did see come up, best reference I have for this right now is actually from CBS News, talking with one of the DPS spokesmen, Erica Estrada, saying that, they haven't found any cases of human smuggling or drugs at the specific inspection area they're at, but they have stopped nearly 1,000 unsafe trucks since the new effort began. And that further, that they were saying they believe that this all the people doing it and the inspections going on have deterred further smuggling attempts here. So, I mean, sure, that is probably not a bad thing that there have been unsafe trucks. I mean, we have our own anecdote. I'm sure everyone around here has a story about some driver, if not a truck, coming over from Mexico in this area doing something unsafe or otherwise shady on the roads in our area. But I do have to say that that wasn't exactly the point of this effort, was it? Was to deal with unsafe trucks. The point was smuggling. So, I mean, sure, fringe benefit at best here, but to claim that as, oh, well, that justifies the whole thing, not quite, I would say, justification there. But again, let's get back to those phone lines again. The number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. As you know, Andrew, America was founded, occupied, invaded, and colonized by people, starting with the first Americans, or should we say Asians, who crossed the ice bridge that existed where the Bering Strait is today, tens of thousands of years ago, and who inhabited most of the Americas. Then came the Europeans with their capitalism, Christianity, colonization, and cooties. So anti-immigrants, you should go back to your ancestors' lands unless you're descendants of Native Americans. Oh, you know what? That sounds too much like CRT. We don't want kids learning this. Anyway, we know that didn't happen because might makes right, and history is written by the victors. What really ails America isn't illegal immigrants or politicians saying that Democrats are the problem for wanting open borders, which is a lie. Most Dems and liberals do not want open borders. What ails America is plutocracy. The economic and political establishments, a government composed of the best politicians money can buy, in a very undemocratic and unrepresentative political system. Now, my proposal would be pay Mexico to build, maintain, and man a wall on their southern border, and then put a bunch of U.S. embassies there along that border, that Mexican southern border, so people can apply for asylum there. Now, the kind of people and number of immigrants we would like to have, if I was writing immigration policy, would be young, healthy, educated people, or people with money, and or people that the U.S. economy seems to be needing. And so what most liberals, Democrats, progressives want is sensible immigration policies that recognize the exploitive role that the U.S. and its capitalists and its globalists played in the past in the politics of these underdeveloped, basically agricultural economies, things like the Monroe Doctrine and banana republics, and thus invest in these countries and the people to keep them at home. So that's what I would like to see, and I think that's what most rational people would like to see too.
I mean, it's very interesting the way you describe your ideal policy then, because outside of some of the finer points of actual construction and such, that sounds very similar to at least the stated goal, if not the implementation of some things like, well, among other things, the Migrant Protection Protocol's MPP, so-called Remain in Mexico policy, with a little bit of combination of what has been more recently suggested by, again, Veronica Escobar, El Paso Congresswoman, and others with their letter to the Department of Homeland Security of considering in-country processing. Somewhere we've got a noise going on there. So, I mean, sounding kind of similar to that idea. So, curious to know if you would then agree with the way it was implemented under the previous administration?
No. Not at all. His was a disaster. Trump was a disaster, and I don't see how anybody would want that man back in the White House. He was a commander in chaos and tried to pull off a coup. So,
Okay.
you know,
Outside of the actual implications of the leadership, I'm talking about the policy itself here, because it sounds like you're very much in favor of the idea of the policy, even if the implementation it had some issues in this area of, again, having people essentially remain in Mexico while being processed.
No, they wouldn't be coming over. We'd be trying to stop them right there at the border.
Okay, so I mean, it sounds to me like you're in agreement there, which would be an interesting point to make further here. But I mean, the idea of essentially having immigration not overwhelm the system on this side of it here, I think that's the more existential threat that we see coming from this, because among other things, if we have just no ability to control it, I mean, the cartels have played more than a little bit a part of this. They have been very much encouraging, profiting off of it, and have been using it literally as cover for their other illegal efforts here. And so they would just love the idea of an overwhelmed system here that they can otherwise waltz through here. So, I mean, the way we deal with this is going to be kind of paramount to solving the situation. Now, this does end up coming down to the can we do both physical security as well as immigration reform at the same time, which seems it's been politically untenable for, well, better part of my lifetime anyway. But, I mean, really, if you're thinking about that policy you're putting forth here, you're kind of trying to combine them both, it does sound like, as well.
Well, you know what? We need to invest in these countries' economies so that these people will stay there. We spend a lot of money on military weaponry around the world and fighting wars that we fought throughout our history, very belligerent, bellicose nation history, and not really being on the side of the average person, being for the most part on the side of the dictators, of the tyrants, of the elites of those countries, and that's why it's around the world, so many countries look down on the United States, see us as imperialists and colonialists, because we were.
I mean, there's a lot to be said about the history of things and the fact that, well, some of the major international trade, at least governmentally approved anyway, does come in the form of weapons contracts. But still, interesting confluences here we could look at on the idea of how to actually implement immigration policy and reform here. We've had some other callers who have mentioned that they like the idea of there being very specifically, immigration reform, but along with border security efforts, what it sounds like you're kind of in favor of here. So maybe the deserves some further discussion and debate here, even if, we'll get it locally, even if some of the nationals won't do it. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. All right, you have a good one there. I mean, I would be in favor in general of such an idea, which sounds like an interesting thing to say. But again, that's what I kind of hope we get to more often than not, even if it doesn't exactly happen on this program, the idea of what can actually be done in finding things that might work here. And, well, we'll see what we can do about then getting the discussion further along so that enough notice is paid to these kind of things in order to actually see something done here. Again, if you want to call in during the show, if you want to add your own call, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. I think we got another call on the line here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this? Well, must not be on the line here with us. So again, if you want to call, a number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some response happening there with that. Ion Grimm saying he's confused. His description of the kind of immigration doesn't represent who the Democrats are letting in illegally. I mean, I guess it really comes down to that cross focus and that cross purpose there between the way these bills often come up. It often seems from the left side of the aisle, you're getting the immigration reform side of things, and from the right side of the aisle, you end up getting the border security efforts. Finding that as a bipartisan solution and getting them both probably done at once, I think that's what it's actually going to take to see, well, reform among other things with this. So if that actually happens, I'll frankly be surprised. And I'm not going to hold my breath in the meantime because I don't want to turn blue and pass out. But I think that's the only way this is going to get done, to be perfectly honest here. So even if we find ourselves with strange bedfellows and getting into a solution on this, I got to say I would be generally in favor of it, even if that kind of conversation at the more national level seems to be fleeting at best. I mean, a whole lot of, even outside of the state level efforts and responses coming into it, seems to be focused on just the keeping of Title 42, which essentially is the cartoon meme version of take the problem and push it over there. It's not anything besides, barely not even a short-term solution. So again, would love lawmakers to even be putting forth more policy than that, but we've covered that ground a lot lately. Tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more of the calls on the line. Again, if you're wanting to call in, chime in, do your thing there, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. if you haven't noticed the new do I'm sporting, because you're not, tuning in with us over on the social media and seeing our live stream, I definitely got my ears lowered and my beard trimmed, expertly done by our official hair and beard sponsor over at Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon. So you may be thinking about that phrase, isn't usually barber shop. Well, they came up with the concept barber salon because that better, talks about what they do, bring both the traditional arts of barbering along with all the better supplies and services you'd want to get out of a salon here, but putting it in a beautiful building just on the street from us here on Mesa, 1712 North Mesa Street. Beautiful old Trost home that really gives you a sense of place and a refuge, and where you can really go feel like a king for a day. I mean, their services, their expert hair services, shaving, beard styling, and grooming, and a whole lot more. Plus, they have some specials on prom packages, so make sure to give them a call and find out availability and make your appointment by calling 915-532-3000. That's 915-532-3000, because every man or young man deserves to feel like a king for a day.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 Morning News Update. While Texas Governor Greg Abbott says crime at the southern border remains a major problem, he has admitted that he's created a new problem while trying to address the situation. Regardless, he says don't blame him, blame President Biden. Every truck that goes through a port of entry in Texas now has to be checked extensively, and those checks take 45 minutes each, which, as we have seen, is causing massive backup. Businesses say they're being hurt by the delays. Abbott's response, quote, "The ultimate way to end the clogged border is for the president to do his job and secure the border." Now, Abbott wants Biden to announce a replacement for the expiring Title 42 policy and negotiate with the Mexican government for stricter enforcement. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 Morning News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Watch for a crash. I-10 westbound at the Copia Street on-ramp. Trans Mountain eastbound at Kenworthy. That earlier crash is still blocking the left lane involving multiple vehicles. Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Giles, an injury accident reported there. And I-10 eastbound at Vinton. A stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. It's definitely a warmer day today, and happy to say that the winds are not very strong. And this is going to be pretty much our trend as we head into our holiday weekend, with increasing temperatures and afternoon breezy conditions. The breeziest day will actually come Friday and Saturday. For Sunday right now, those Easter egg hunts are looking warm, but pretty nice.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If your company needs to spring into efficient hiring, then check out Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the Flex Seal family of products. You know, there's a lot of ways to protect your home. You could dig a moat. You could bubble wrap it. Or you could train a pack of wolves to protect it. But the best way is with the Flex Seal family of products. So when you need to patch, bond, seal, repair, and stop leaks fast, get the Flex Seal family of products. Available at FlexSealProducts.com and fine retailers.
There's something for everyone on Discovery Plus. The streaming home of ghostly freakouts, muscle car spinouts, and 90-day makeouts.
I'm really in love with her.
Start your free trial today for exclusive originals and a huge collection of favorites.
Whoa!
Then dive into Nature Docs, geek out with the family, and get your grub on.
I can eat this every day.
The streaming home of true crime, paranormal, food, home, nature, romance, plus so much more. Discovery Plus. Start your free trial. Terms apply.
Staples has everything you need for everywhere you work. Now save $15 when you spend $75 on select items. In-store only. Offer ends 4/16. Coupon required. One per customer. See store or staplesconnect.com for exclusions and details. Staples, the working and learning store. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
With an open channel,
I guess just try to keep channels open.
We welcome open-minded individuals.
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
With open arms.
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
For open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world. Wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we have got the social media pages. We're up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Also want to remind you about through the iHeartRadio app, if you're tuned in that way or considering doing it because, A, it's mobile, it's convenient, it's right on your device here. But once you're tuned into us, you're listening to 690, look for that little red microphone button, old school microphone button, kind of looking like you might expect like an announcer from the 1950s talking into, because if you click on that, you can speak directly into it and tell us your own message, and another way to get out with us on the show here. I have some prizes coming up here for use of that, so it might pay to get familiar with it now. Just saying, download the app if you haven't already through your preferred app store. But of course, we got that phone line open right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll get to here in just a second. Some more comments coming in. RJ over on the YouTube page saying, careful telling comrade he agrees with a Trump-era policy could put him in shock. He started to sound disoriented. I mean, I was mildly surprised myself here because, I mean, sure, that sounds like an interesting immigration policy as posited by our previous caller. That sounds, again, very, very similar to one that we've heard before. I mean, I know that some callers and some people out there give a lot of flack for the idea that there was no physical wall built during paid for by Mexico anyway, during the Trump administration. But again, looking at even just the circumstances in our region, there was essentially a virtual one, a manpower one built, well, in Mexico, nationally anyway, when their reactivation and complete revamp of the Guardia Nacional, the Mexican National Guard, and how it got transformed into essentially a border security force on its own, even on their own southern border, which is not usually something that has happened, at least that I'm aware of at any level. So, I mean, there's more debate and discussion to be there. Would love to see some of these policy suggestions coming out of our lawmakers, but we'll see if that ever happens. Better be happening, but, well, anytime soon would be nice. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. There was a New York Times article today that came out concerning the Biden administration's request from Congress. In other words, less detention for illegal immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And what it entails is funding for 20,000 less beds for the detention of immigrants.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I don't know if you read that.
Yeah, I think I saw that one come through today, but what was the point you were wanting to make about it?
Well, the point is that if we're going that route, then that's going to mean the release of catch and release of more illegal immigrants into the communities.
I mean, that, I hate to say it, as essentially being one of the major points having been already being done as it is. I mean, Biden has previously asked Congress, if just further from the New York Times here, for 9,000 fewer, rather, immigration detention facilities. So this has already been moved forward. I mean, it's been a quieter statewide effort, not nearly the focus that these, well, in the last couple of weeks, ones that have come out of the Texas governor's mansions have been. But this is something that Texas has been working on for a while, actually, is ramping up state-level detention facilities, primarily in reference to the Operation Lone Star enforcement, even that's got its own issues on it. So I guess I'm not surprised about this, but I guess the real part that might surprise most people is that's the way it's already been done. The vast majority of people who end up processing through the system that essentially have not, within the last couple of years, fallen under removal under Title 42 have been getting released. So that would be more of just adding to that here. I mean, again, it's just the way the system has worked even before Title 42, even before the pandemic, even before the Trump administration. That was generally how it worked. At least the majority of stuff that I have seen personally have been able to go out and see how it works, at least in this community.
Yes, it also stems from Alejandro Mayorkas' policy and memorandum that being in the United States illegally is not cause in and of itself for deportation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also had a big effect on the overall immigration policy along the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah, again, kind of as I've long supposed that the Biden administration would be, kind of a warmed over set of largely Obama era policies. And this has been one of them, the idea of prioritization as opposed to absolute enforcement. They're looking at the higher risks, the guys like that actually came through our area recently. Not exactly in the El Paso sector, but not right in the city of El Paso. A guy wanted for murder over in Midland was caught by Border Patrol as of I think yesterday or today, actually.
Yes, correct. Also, Raul made a remark about the U.S. spending a lot of money on the military and bases all over the world, and about the country in general being too bellicose. In other words, willing to fight. But we have to go back to the last century and remember we have been through two major world wars, and one of the biggest one that cost over 60 million deaths worldwide was World War II. And people who are still alive from that era still remember December 7th quite well.
Oh yeah, I mean the immediate implications and comparisons between that and 9/11 are still very relevant until this day here. And yeah, I mean it's still a consequence of the end of World War II. The fact that this was the only real landmass that had any major international powers left on it that remained essentially unaffected or at least undestroyed to a large extent by the effects of World War II. I mean, Europe just torn up, lots of Asia and the Pacific regions, again, where there were major worldwide powers, saw almost none of their capabilities remaining after World War II. So, I mean, you just look at that logical progression that happened from that point. It makes sense where we've ended up now, though. Just in terms of shades of looking back to that, a comparison was made to me by a friend that actually that sinking of that Russian cruiser in the Black Sea, the Moskva, is actually the largest tonnage ship that has been sunk since World War II. So that bellicose nature, as you put it there, or the willingness to fight, as might be better put here, might be getting, well, I'm not saying we're on exactly a collision course, but the trajectory that the world seems to be going to might require that kind of a spirit sooner rather than later.
Well, and also Raul has to remember that countries like Mexico, Central America, and a great deal of South America also depend on the military power of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Vis-a-vis the Monroe Doctrine. Countries like Mexico have not had any encounters with a major foreign power since the 1800s. So that's something to consider.
Absolutely here. Yeah, to my understanding, Mexico essentially does not have air interdiction power. So whereas, I mean, speaking of 9/11, there was a jet scrambled and dealing with planes and interdicting planes that are coming in unauthorized into U.S. airspace. My understanding is that even to this day, Mexico simply does not have that power, doesn't have anywhere near the amount of planes or even just aircraft required to do that kind of a thing. So yeah, the hemispheric security still very much falls on the U.S. And also, again, since you brought it up there, point that out, there are more countries now actually asking for U.S. presence and involvement. Kosovo comes to mind, but then also Sweden and Finland looking at wanting to strengthen their international security agreements and get a little bit closer to the U.S. in that way. So just saying, there might be a tide turning in that even in this century.
Yes, sir. Anyway, have a good evening and live long and prosper, Andrew.
You too as well. Hope you have a good one out there. I mean, there's a lot to get to here that we'll keep discussing here. So again, thank you for the point in the call. Let's get to at least one more before we hit that next break. We do have a Jerry in the Northwest with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. And if I don't get back to you tomorrow, El Paso, have a happy Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Give praise to the guy who gave his life for us, for all our sins, please. He deserves it. As to their border issue,
mm-hmm.
we did have, and back in the Reagan administration, we did have help going to a lot of the countries in the Central America area. We had doctors going down there, and we had National Guard units going down there helping to build schools and hospitals and such like that. I was there. I know. I did some of that. So, Raul, you're wrong on some of the stuff. But then came the Clinton era, the Hillary Clinton era, and that was stopped. And then Honduras, somewhere around 2009, had an election, and the president that was there wanted to stay another term, and it was against the Honduras Constitution. But Hillary Clinton stepped in and said, no, Honduras, you can't have your own constitution. You got to do what we say. So it's not just Republicans that are bullies on the block as far as being the United States.
Oh, it's essentially been the official policy of the United States for centuries, basically now, ever since we have the Monroe Doctrine establishment itself here, of very much involvement and interventionism in these small countries. I mean, I'm sure that there were things along the lines you were describing there happening during the Reagan administration, but also what immediately comes to mind is the whole Iran-Contra scandal that happened at the time, which was, again, very much involved in interfering in internal politics of the country here. And it's not even necessarily been an official U.S. policy, like we are going to mess with you with government forces. I mean, it's been La United Fruit Co. I mean, all these kind of things. So the impacts that happen with our neighbors to the south are pretty undeniable. And yeah, it has been one of the more unified bipartisan efforts across generations at this point here. So to say that it lays at any one particular foot or not of a political party is kind of missing the larger point that this has been happening consistently for a very long time here. And so we're reaping a lot of rewards from it.
The Monroe doctrine and such like that, Andrew, we tried to help them other nations. But I'm saying one party was doing the right thing during the Reagan administration, like Raul was suggesting, and then you get the next party that came in and cut all that off, and they didn't want nothing to do with that. In fact, when Haiti had their earthquake and all that, it was the Clinton Global Initiative that went in there and basically took all their money, all the donations going to Haiti. So he's blaming the wrong side is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, fair enough. I get your point there, even if, again, at the end, it's been, you pick an administration, and even if there are benefits that you're talking about here, there's also been quite a lot of, well, let's also see what we can do to achieve our goals, so to speak, here, coming with it here. So I'd like the balance to be more on the former rather than the latter, but just across U.S. policy, across decades, has definitely been further towards the achieving of our own foreign policy goals, if not just helping people. Not that there's not a place for that, but the way we've gone about it in general has pretty much directly led to, I think, our current situation when it comes to immigration, among other things, I do believe.
Well, the way that people put it out there, they're always putting out the bad or the wrong side, and they're blaming people on things that are being done when it's their side doing it.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Just like the little boy in school pulls Cindy's hair, and she turns around and yells at him, and he says, "Cindy's picking on me." So that's the way it goes.
No, I get your point there, and I mean, I would like to see a change in that and a difference in the way we go about this as a country here. But again, you want to talk about more consistent foreign policy across almost the entire history of this country. That's going to be one of it here. So appreciate the point in the call. If we don't hear from you, happy Easter to you as well. All right, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we got a couple more calls and such that we're going to get to here. So if you're on the line, stay there. And otherwise, be back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Again, don't forget about that talkback feature through the iHeartRadio app. We'll get more details and information on some of the stuff we'll be doing with that going forward here. But just download the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you've got it handy and how to find 690 on it. And we'll get more details on that going forward here. Otherwise, back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Reynolds got a crash that is blocking the center lane now and the right shoulder. It's causing a backup. Expect delays there. I-10 eastbound at Vinton, a disabled semi is blocking both shoulders, and there's a backup there. I-10 eastbound at Schuster Avenue, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, and an accident reported I-10 westbound at Copia Street on-ramp to the 10 westbound. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know life's moments are definitely better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to always be ready to make the most of these moments.
Whether in studio, on the red carpet, or around the house, having the confidence to get close is amazing.
Our lives are better together with Smart Mouth. Just 2 rinses a day means fresh breath for 24 hours.
Find it at your favorite drug, grocery, or supercenter store, or save 20% at smartmouth.com/radio.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're speaking another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso. I have been your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding out Bend on the end of the program here. Again, a few things to keep in mind. We're on the cusp of Free for All Friday here, so we'll get to more of that as we do throughout the program tomorrow. All the comments and calls that y'all can bring us throughout the show, and there's so much to discuss here. Border security and immigration focus this week, sure, but that's the time we'll take on any subject. Just keep it clean here. So let's squeeze in those last couple of calls we can before we hit that. Again, pound 250 or those talkback feature mentions over on the iHeartRadio app. If you got it here, let us know if it works for you, because we'd love to get it. And again, we got some stuff coming for you using that. So here again, back with the calls here right now. Right now we do have Ben on the west side here with us. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. When I made this call, I was going to say something about I did not see any upside to what Governor Abbott was doing.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've been since listening to the news conference with the Chihuahua governor. I stand corrected. It sounds like he may have known playing three-dimensional chess where I was just playing chess.
Okay, I mean,
sounds good.
The way he's put these agreements into place, if that was the original goal, to get these kind of multilateral things by, well, hook or by crook, these multiple bilateral, I guess the better way to describe it, agreements, interesting way to have gone about it. We'll see how voters react, I think, will be the question that comes out of this ahead of November then.
Yeah, and also just to say something about the rant that Lowell did about 2 days ago about his want of control of our guns. I would like to give him Benjamin Franklin's statement that those who would give up essential liberty to get a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. So, we got to, that's the reason why we have a Second Amendment.
And again, the way most of these control, I mean, I'm well on record about this, the idea that the way most of these so-called gun control efforts go into place don't actually do anything about those that are already breaking the laws in the books that we need to do more enforcement of. And yeah, to finish out that phrase, that those who would give up some to gain that security deserve neither and will lose both. I think is a very critical component that is not often understood when we're talking about these kind of situations, because sure, temporary often ends up, well, stretching out much beyond that, because also government power, once secured, is often loath to be relinquished.
Which brings me to the point of COVID, which is exactly what we did there. We need to think about not doing this in the future. And we cannot give up our liberty for safety. We shouldn't do this again.
I'd be surprised if we do, outside of something truly extraordinary, because of what fits into ordinary now has been a bit expanded. But outside of this, because even if there are more mandates that come in here, I mean, I think that's the people who are going to follow them are already taking their own measures, and those who aren't gonna. So outside of something like, I mean, if a volcano explodes, sure, some temporary orders may be required for that area affected, but this national kind of stuff here, yeah, I'd be surprised if that, well, I don't think you're getting that genie back in the bottle is the better way to put it.
Well, if you take away our medical freedom, you've taken away our freedom, because that's exactly what the Germans did, and they started out that way. They'll give the powers that be just an inch, they're going to take a mile, and there is no stopping them. So we have to stand firm, especially for something as important as our medical freedom.
I mean, I won't disagree with you on that point, even if we'll see what comes up next. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. You have a good one here. All right, I think we have one more quick call on the line that I think we can get to here. We have Marky over in Central. Marky, we got about 30 seconds.
All right, let me just make this quick. 3 years ago, I protested my property taxes. They tried to say my house was worth $200. The appraiser said it was worth $160. They met me in the middle at $180. They kept it there for 3 years. This year, it went up to $225, which is $45,000. So my escrow was short $1,400. And so I figured if you get a home appraisal at $500, you stay missing a day of work, then you get estimates that better companies are charging, like $150 to come give a real estimate. You spend upward to $800, $900 to try to save $1,400. And then what if they didn't meet in the middle again? What if they didn't say it was 200, but say they drop it, $15,000 and meet me at 210? That's still going to mean my escrow is going to be short. So it's kind of a trap to protest. And plus, I have a friend in Cal. He said they shoot for 5% of successful protest. But you don't know how much a successful protest really means. Is it less than lowering it by $20,000, $50,000? I've heard of some people at my job that says their home went up to 70, 80,000 more. And I have a bungalow in Central that's only 3,000 feet. It's kind of small. It's going through a restoration. So I think it's a trap to pay these companies to come out and do it if the city's not going to help you out, while you have Foster and them getting their refinery appraised at probably $500 million less than it's actually worth. So we're kind of stuck, guys. So we're going to just have to pay the piper.
I mean, I think there's some points there. I'm still going to actually advocate that if you're in that situation, to go ahead and do the protest. But tell you what, we'll have to get into that tomorrow here. So thank you for the point in the call. I do appreciate it. We'll do it all and all of these topics tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. In the meantime, I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in as you have been. Stay tuned for more Talk El Paso tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles and have a great evening, y'all.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Reynolds got a crash that is blocking the center lane now and the right shoulder. It's causing a backup. Expect delays there. I-10 eastbound at Vinton, a disabled semi is blocking both shoulders, and there's a backup there. I-10 eastbound at Schuster Avenue, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, and an accident reported I-10 westbound at Copia Street on-ramp to the 10 westbound. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
This is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be El Paso's #1 dealer in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in March. As a gesture of our gratitude, we've extended all our Ram Truck Month deals, like 0 down, 0% interest for 72 months and no payments for 90 days.
Buy now and save thousands on a huge inventory of new and certified pre-owned vehicles. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months. All new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 0 APR for 72 months. 0 payments for 90 days. We've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms, even if your credit is less than perfect. And we
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The Russian Ministry of Defense is confirming one of its warships sunk in the Black Sea. Reports said a fire broke out on the guided missile cruiser Moskva, causing explosions and the crew to be evacuated. Ukraine said it hit the warship with anti-ship missiles, causing it to sink. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said it's difficult to say what this means to Russia.
As for the impact on the